Well, come on in, take a seat, let's get started here. Welcome to the 36th ever Sunday Assembly in San Diego. Thank you all for being here. My goodness, what a good turnout this morning. I thought it was going to be a little bit too chilly, but I thought, no, it won't be, because we have actually 8 chili in the back. Or I will say in a couple of hours we will have 8 chili in the back. You're here on a good day. It's our first annual chili cook-off, chili for everybody, and no expense for that unless you want to be a judge and be assured of tasting every one of these fine recipes. But as always, we're going to start. I want to make sure you know that we have a media-free zone. If you, we are videotaping this or digitally recording this event, and if you don't want to be recorded, please have a seat in a designated area. We're going to start off today, as we always do, with the one person who's been to all 36 Sunday assemblies, Mr. Paul Svensson.
I guess I need to get a life, huh?
1, 2, 3.
Let's all stand up. Unless you don't want to, then please don't. Whatever I ask you to do, if you don't feel like it, just don't. Just ignore me like most of the rest of the world does. I just got back from New York City, where they have trains where people go to work. Here we go, you know this. You get up every morning to the alarm clock's warning, take the 8:15 to the city. They whistle up above them, people pushing, people shoving, the girls who try to look pretty. And if your train's on time, you can get to work by 9. You start your slaving job to get your pay. If you ever get annoyed, look at me, I'm self-employed. I like to work at nothing all day. Here we go. And I've been taking care of business every day. I'm taking care of business everywhere. I've been taking care of business. It's all mine. Taking care of business, working overtime, work out. It was easy as fishing. You could be a musician. You could get sounds like mellow. Get a second-hand car, chances are you'll go far if you get in with the right bunch of fellows. All people see you having fun, just a lying in the sun. Tell them that you like it this way. It's the work that we avoid, and we're all self-employed. We love to work at nothing all day. Here we go. And I'll be taking care of business every day. Taking care of business everywhere. I'll be taking care of business. It's all mine. Taking care of business. Working overtime, work out. Well, you get up every morning to the alarm clock. Take the 8:15 to the city. There's a whistle up above and people pushing, people shoving, the girls who try to look pretty. And we'll be taking care of business every day. Taking care of business every way. We'll be taking care of business. It's all mine. Taking care of business. Working. Take it down now. Taking care of business every day. Taking care of business everywhere. We're gonna take care of business. It's all mine. Taking care of business. I'm gonna take care of business every day. Taking care of business everywhere. Taking care of business. It's all mine. Taking care of business. Working overtime. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Chris. That is awesome. Wow, a really good way to get started here. Well, welcome to Sunday Assembly. Sunday Assembly is part of a global community that meets monthly to connect for community events, to sing songs, to have some snacks, and just to celebrate this one life that we know that we have. The motto for Sunday Assembly is live better, help often, and wonder more. And boy, we've done a lot of that in this last month. The community is just, it's been just amazing spending time with people and connecting and being together. Every Sunday Assembly has a theme. Our theme for today is Go With Your Gut. And I want to make sure that you know that it is a PG-13 event for some of the discussions possibly, so you are advised. Also, I want to make sure that you know that we offer childcare from ages 1.5 up. We have really competent people that are trained and there to work with your children, and they'll have a good time out there. We do. How many of you, it's the first time for Sunday Assembly by a show of hands? Well, welcome. Give those people a high five. It's your first time to Sunday Assembly. We are so glad to have you here. Sunday Assembly is a radically inclusive community. We invite everybody to come in and have some fun with us. We have a thing that we call Life Happens, which is an opportunity for us to share some of the things that have happened to our assemblers here during the month, and we've had a couple people that are sharing with us. I will point out, although we don't have a card for it, that our executive director, Neil Hamovich, has graced us with his, for the first time, baby Hamovich here at the assembly. So we're very excited about that. She is gorgeous. My friend Jason got a great new job and a new apartment, and I'm really thrilled for him. That's from Val. Val, that is super cool. Jason, all right. Some of you that have been around for a little bit, we met Josh several months ago, and he's been coming to assemblies regularly for almost a year now, I think. Is that right, Josh? Yep. He's returning to Nashville on Wednesday, and he'll miss us all. He wants to thank the assembly, especially Stephen, Laura, and Aaron, who helped me get on my feet, and Mark and Amy, who became friends when I needed family most of my life. I love you all. Excuse me. Gosh, I don't know why I do this. I love you all, and as Vera said, we'll meet again some sunny day. From Joshua Rice. Joshua, we'll miss you. You're a great person. Wish you the best in Nashville. Sunday Assembly is part of a global community, and there is a Sunday Assembly in Nashville. So that works out really well. So we're glad to have that. We'll have a reading today. Our reading is Marin Castaneda will be reading Everyone Poops. We even got you the book.
Hi, everybody. Okay. An elephant makes a big poop. A mouse makes a tiny poop. A one-hump camel makes a one-hump poop. And a two-hump camel makes a two-hump poop. Only kidding. Fish poop, and so do birds. And bugs too. Different animals make different kinds of poop. Different shapes, different colors, even different smells. Which end is the snake's behind? It is fair question. What does whale poop look like? Some stop to poop. Others do it on the move. Wouldn't that be great? Much more efficient. Some poop here and there. Others do it in a special place. Grown-ups poop. It's true, we do. Children poop too. Slightly more obvious fact. While some children poop on the potty, that's like amazing when they do that. Others poop in their diapers, and that's okay too. Some animals poop and pay no attention. Others clean up after themselves. These poop by the water. This one does it in the water. He wipes himself with paper, then flushes it down. Good job. All living things eat, so everyone poops. Thank you.
Thank you, Maren. That was well read. And as much as I really loved the story, I think your editorializing was the best part of the whole thing. We all do. We also meet and connect for great talks, and today we have Dr. Embriette Hyde, a Forbes 30 under 30 scientist. She's a human microbiome expert. She completed her PhD thesis on the human microbiome and health, disease, and death at Baylor College of Medicine in May 2014. And after completion of her PhD, she joined the laboratory of the microbiome pioneer, Dr. Robert Knight. In August 2015, Dr. Hyde became manager of the American Gut Project, the largest crowdsourced citizen science research project, which has raised nearly $2 million and collected over 12,000 samples from people living in 39 different countries. In the past year, Dr. Hyde has expanded the project into Asia, in Singapore, and established the project as part of the White House's National Microbiome Initiative. Her passion is to share knowledge of the microbiome with scientists, clinicians, laypersons alike. We're so happy to have her here. Thank you, Dr. Hyde.
Are we good? Good. Everybody can hear me okay? Great. Thanks for the wonderful, kind introduction, and thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm going to have to comment that the one thing missing from the book that we just read is that everybody poops and I want all of it. And hopefully by the end of this talk, you'll understand why, and not only that, but actually want to give me your poop. That is my goal. So I'm going to start off by just giving you a hypothetical situation. Put on your thinking caps and imagine you're at the doctor for a routine physical. We've all done that. Most of us probably hate it. But just imagine that your doctor comes out and he says, your blood pressure is great. You're perfectly healthy. Just go on and live your life. He's here very happy that you're so healthy. You're going to think, something's wrong with that. What about everything else that you're supposed to test? What about my heart rate? Did you check my thyroid? Did you check my lymph nodes? What about all this other stuff that you're supposed to check? You can't just send me home because my blood pressure is good. Nobody's going to believe that. And you would probably be pretty upset, like this woman. But I'm here to tell you that that is exactly what we're doing when we think about our bodies as a system. If you think about all of the genetic material that is inside of your body, human genes, there are about 20,000. If you think about all the bacteria that live in you and on you, they represent about 2 to 20 million genes. So at best, genetically, you're about 1% human. So use that as your next pickup line. So the point is, when we ignore our bacterial counterparts, when we're trying to think of ourselves as a system and how to improve health of the system, we're actually neglecting 99% of the system. So we're no better than the doctor who comes up and says you're perfectly healthy because your blood pressure is good. To put it in a different perspective, the bacteria that live in your gut collectively weigh about as much as your brain. And I really love this analogy because one could argue that they actually are a second brain inside of our gut. In fact, There's something called the gut-brain axis. Maybe a lot of people in here have heard of that. But believe it or not, most of the serotonin in your body, which as you know is important for a healthy mind, is actually produced by bacteria in your gut. And when most people hear that, they're kind of shocked. They're like, wow, I really didn't notice that. I didn't realize it. And there are a lot of other important neurotransmitters produced in the gut. If you've ever been nervous and you have that feeling of butterflies in your gut, it's not just because you're about to vomit. It's because there's a really intimate connection between your brain and your gut. And so we would be remiss if we didn't think that the bacteria, the microbial friends living in us, didn't have anything to do with our health. And in fact, they do contribute in a lot of ways to health. I love this picture. This is actually a microscopic photo of bacteria in your mouth. So brush your teeth. So again, bringing up this little picture, genetically you're more bacterial than you are human. What does that mean? Well, they break down a lot of important components of our diet. So a lot of the plants that you eat, human cells can't break those down. Bacteria do it for you. Vitamin B12, one of the most important vitamins that you can have. A lot of elderly people are deficient in vitamin B12, so they have to get the vitamin B shots. Those are produced only by bacteria. You cannot get that from your diet, and you cannot produce it yourself. They also affect how we break down drugs that we take, from something over the counter like ibuprofen to actual prescription drugs. And then this one hasn't yet been confirmed in humans, but at least if you're a fruit fly, they affect who you want to mate with. And there actually have been some studies kind of looking at this. Has anybody here ever heard of the studies where body odor, they're looking at body odor and how that affects who you may be attracted to? Well, there's a whole bunch of bacteria that live in your armpit. And they're responsible for body odor, so maybe there is actually a connection there. So the big question, and this is exactly why I do what I do, and hundreds of other researchers around the world are doing what we do, is what in the world does this mean? The bacteria are there, they do good things for us, but so what? Where do we go from there? And I'm just going to let you chew on this for a little bit. If you look at this picture, it's not hard to tell which of these people is overweight. But if you look at the genetic information encoded by the human genome of people, you have about a 57% accuracy in predicting which one is obese or will be obese later on in life. If you look at the microbial genes present in these individuals, that accuracy jumps up to 90%. And you're probably thinking, well, I can tell. I don't need the human genetics or the bacterial genetics. I can tell. So what? Why does that matter? But the question I have is, if we can do this with obesity, which is a disease, what other diseases can we do it with? And I put this slide in this morning, because I learned that there were some in the audience who may be really interested in this. There's been a lot of research going on in Crohn's disease, which is a type of inflammatory bowel disease. Many people all across the world are prone to developing this disease. This is work not done out of my own lab, but out of a collaborator's lab, and basically what they were able to show is that there are certain bacterial species in the gut that seem to be associated with disease, and certain that are not. So I know the graph is probably really difficult to see, but these red here, which include Escherichia, which is the same genus that contains E. coli, which you've probably all heard of, these ones are actually increased in Crohn's disease. And not only that, but when they are increased, they're actually opposing the presence of this green group down here. And so there's a really interesting oppositional effect between the bacteria that are present in the gut of these individuals. Now, I do want to point out that these were young, new diagnosed individuals in their late teens and early 20s who had never seen treatment for Crohn's disease. So they're like the perfect pool to delve into. When you start treating people now with medications and antibiotics, it's probably going to block that signal a little bit. But it gives hope for the fact that we can actually figure out microbial signatures associated with disease. And so I'm a dog lover. I have 2 dogs. Always have loved dogs. And So it's really interesting to me when we start thinking about these diseases in our animals too. And believe it or not, dogs actually get IBD. In fact, our puppy, for the first probably 8 months of his life, just had diarrhea like twice a month around the clock. Finally, we got him out of it. Fortunately, thank God, that was awful. But IBD also affects dogs. And so from our lab recently, I worked together with another grad student in the lab. We decided to take that previous paper done in humans and that dysbiosis index that they identified to see if we could do the same thing in dogs. Long story short, we could. And it actually seemed like this connection between the opposing microbes and the dysbiosis index that we defined was actually stronger in dogs than in humans, which was actually very interesting. We don't know why that is, but my guess is that humans are just way more diverse and complex than dogs. We go to the store and we buy our dogs dry dog food, and that's it. Humans, we eat all sorts of things. And so speaking of eating, that is actually one of the easiest and fastest ways to change your microbiome. Both long-term dietary patterns as well as short-term dietary changes can drastically and immediately affect your microbiome. And this could be good news for a lot of people, because probably what you're thinking now is, okay, so if the microbiome is associated with different diseases, say IBD or obesity, maybe all I have to do, instead of going to the doctor and getting a pill, a drug, some crap that's going to give me awful side effects, maybe I can just change my diet. But I'm going to posit to you that it's not quite that simple. It's actually this really complex tangle, like a spider web. There's an interesting study published where it was actually fantastic. They looked at 120,000 people over 20 years, and they tracked their food items in addition to weight and other things associated with health. And one thing that was really interesting and probably very surprising to most people is that over the time span of a year, if individuals made it a habit, a purposeful habit, to every day replace a negative food item with a positive food item, there really wasn't that much different in weight, which would be surprising. And the food items I'm talking about are yogurt and French fries. And so what came of the study of 120,000 people is that individuals who replaced a daily serving of French fries with a daily serving of yogurt lost on average 0.8 pounds, so it was less than a pound. Whereas the individuals who forewent the yogurt and just stuck with the French fries, they gained about 1.7 pounds. So not a huge difference. And so now you're thinking, oh man, really? Why are you bringing me up and then bringing me down? So the question is there hope, or is it all hype? And I'm here to tell you that there really is hope. The thing is, we are so complex. Humans are so different from one another. We all have different bugs in our gut to begin with. We can be as similar as 99% in our human DNA, but we can be as different as 90% in our gut microbes. And so you can imagine that it's a really difficult thing to take into account in a study. But there have been some researchers in Israel who are trying to get at this problem, taking into account everything. Starting microbiome, what that microbiome is doing, and other factors in the human system that could affect the microbiome. And I love this study. What they did was they took 800 individuals with diabetes in Israel, and taking into account a whole bunch of different factors, which I'm not sure how well you can see it, but basically they have the microbiome. They took blood tests for blood sugar and other blood molecules. They asked them questions, and they had them take a food diary. And what they were able to do is, taking all of that information into account, create an algorithm that would basically predict a diet for each individual person that would control their blood sugar, which for a diabetic would be fantastic, right? And what they found was something very surprising. So I've underlined here, I'm just going to read it to you because I'm sure people in the back can't see it. There was one individual that learned that her healthy eating habits may have actually been contributing to her problem. Her blood sugar level spiked after eating tomatoes, which she ate multiple times throughout the week. And so how many people think tomatoes are healthy? I do. For this woman, they weren't. Shocking, right? The other fun fact is that this wasn't an isolated incident. In fact, for some people, ice cream was better than white rice. She's happy. That's usually the first question that happens is, how do I find out which group I'm in? And God, I hope it's the ice cream. So unfortunately, unless you're an Israeli eating the Israeli diet, we can't tell you, but I will tell you that the authors of this study are working on validating these results in other geographic locations, including the United States. So hopefully soon you'll be able to find out which group that you're in. And then the last thing I want to point out, again, I'll just read it because underlined it's a little small. Bringing it back to the whole microbiome component, what the authors found was that although the diets were personalized and thus greatly different across participants, the one thing that popped out is that several of the gut microbiome alterations were the same across individuals. And so this is really intriguing and maybe surprising, but maybe not so surprising. And so this is kind of where the future of microbiome research is going. As I've mentioned, though, it's really complex. We're complex. We're very, very different from people who live just over in England, for example. A lot of different cultural differences, food differences, habits, whether or not we live and work inside or outside. This is all adds to the noise and makes studying the human microbiome very difficult. And so we're kind of scratching our heads thinking about how do we address this problem? In order to do it, we need to sample a lot of people. And so my boss, Rob Knight, a little over 4 years ago, had this brilliant idea with another collaborator of his. Why don't we create a project that is basically the People's Project? We'll make a citizen science research project that will enable us to get all the data that we need. And so American Gut was born. The name is a little deceptive, as you'll see shortly, but what this is our crowd-funded citizen science project that enables people to not only see where they kind of are on the microbiome map, but also contribute to this amazing scientific resource that is available to any researcher around the world who wants to use it. And so one of the main goals of the project, if you want to think about the microbiome, oops, it's not showing up. There it is, as a map, a world map. There are bad places on the map. Most people would think Antarctica is a really bad place to go, although I know some people really do like to go there. And then there are good places on the map. So believe it or not, there are penguins who live in Barbados. Happens. So what we want to do is identify on the human microbiome map what those bad places are and what those good places are, but even more importantly, provide the data necessary to figure out how to move from the bad to the good places. It's not going to help us to know what those places are if we don't know what to do about it. And so just to give you an idea of where the project has come from 4 years ago, I'll show you some of our demographics. So one of the key things is that the important part, the data, are actually not the sequencing results that we get back, but the lifestyle information that people tell us about. Sequences don't mean anything if we can't compare it to something. And so people will take surveys that answer questions about their disease history, lifestyle, dietary patterns, things of that nature. So since Thanksgiving 2012, which is when the project started, we've had over 9,900 people sign up for the project. Now, I mentioned that this is a crowd-funded citizen science project, so what that means is that the individuals are also funding the project. We have no government funding, so those 9,900 people collectively have given us nearly $2 million to do this work, which is absolutely fantastic. And that represents a lot of poo. We have over 13,000 samples. I will give the disclaimer that not all of it is poop. About 1,000 samples come from other locations on the body. All the hype is about poop these days because that's the largest community and the most studied. But skin microbiome, oral microbiome, vaginal microbiomes, all of these microbiomes have very important roles in keeping the human body healthy. And so one thing that I always like to try to do whenever I talk about American Gut is encourage people to give us more of those alternative sample types because those are also very important as well. We also have a wide range of ages represented in the cohort. We accept children as young as 6 weeks, and our oldest individual in the cohort, last I checked, was 102 years old. And in the intro, the quote that was given was 37 countries. That was true about a month ago. Now we're up to 41 countries, so it continues to grow. I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to try to go through this quickly. So what we're finding, just in our cohort, is that there are a lot of different factors that can affect the microbiome. There we go. Those were all supposed to come up at the same time. So this is a curve called a power curve. If anybody's familiar with statistics, basically what we're trying to do here is figure out how many samples you need in a group to see if there's a significant difference. And so what we're trying to do here is figure out which of those factors that people tell us about on the survey seem to have the strongest association with the microbiome. And maybe not so surprisingly, based on everything that I've said already in the talk, country and the number of types of plants that you're eating have the strongest effect. And what's really important about this is that it's in the absence of like an actual vegetarian diet. So you could still eat meat, red meat, chicken, fish, pork. All that matters is the number of types of plants that you're eating. And so diet is a really complex thing, if you've already seen. And so we got really interested in trying to figure out, at least in the American gut cohort, what the heck could be going on? Why could this be? And so there's another tool that we use, not very often. This is something new for us that we're reaching into. Usually what we do is we sequence the DNA. The other thing that you can do is actually capture the small molecules that are present in a sample. So if the bacteria are producing something, or if there's something present in your food, we can use something called mass spectrometry to detect those molecules. And so this is exactly what we did in collaboration with another lab at UC San Diego. And what we found was that, interestingly enough, there was one small molecule called linoleic acid that was consistently higher in people who eat a lot of different types of plants. And we decided also to see if this was associated with a specific plant type or if it was just all across the board. And what we found is that the results were significant looking at nuts, looking at fruits, and looking at vegetables. So it seems to be all across the board, increase with the number of types of plants. The thing that kind of got us scratching our heads about this, though, is that if you look at linoleic acid, it's very common in oils. It's the most common in oils that are used to fry foods. And so it really kind of doesn't make sense that we're seeing it higher in people who are eating a lot of plants. So we thought about this for a little bit. We did some literature searching, and what we are now hypothesizing and have yet to prove is that what if it's not linoleic acid, which is this straight chain branch molecule, but conjugated linoleic acid. And the reason we think this may be the case is that conjugated linoleic acid is actually produced by bacteria in your gut. And a lot of the bacteria that are in your gut that produce this are actually higher in the plant eater. So it's one of those situations where A equals B, B equals C, does A equal C? We don't know yet, but we're working on it. And so I think what I'm going to do, since I'm running out of time, is I'll skip a couple of slides, but what I want to do is bring you back to the map. Remember, I said we're looking for bad and good areas and how to move people from those bad to good areas. So what I've presented you so far is just general from the cohort. Anybody can sign up who can afford it. And so you can imagine that we may have some trouble addressing some of these areas. So we've been working with several groups, both at UC San Diego and in other places across the country, to try to get in some bad microbiomes and some good microbiomes. So just to highlight a couple of them, we've been working with the American Gastroenterological Association, specifically to look more into inflammatory bowel disease research. We're working with Mercy Hospital to get samples in from appendiceal cancer patients. We have this really amazing group called the Undiagnosed Disease Consortium that we've been working really closely with. We're also partnering with UC San Diego Athletics, to sample all of the athletes on campus. Rady Children's Hospital to get more of the younger microbiome components. And of course the San Diego Fermentation Festival, which I know at least one of you in this room has been to, and actually I saw some fermented foods in the back. So if people are not yet convinced that fermented foods are good, you should go try some. Actually, I have one more slide. Do I have time to? Okay. So one of the things that I want to mention, to bring out, just to really highlight the power of American Gut, to not only find associations just in general between a large population, but what if we use it as a backdrop for other disease states? And so I'm going to use an example from the Undiagnosed Disease Consortium. I know that just looks like a cloud of, I don't know, thread maybe, but really what this is what was at the time about 9,000 stool samples, so you can see we're higher now. And what it is it's a network connecting each of those stool samples based on how many bacteria are in common between the two. So it's a way to see how well people in the cohort relate to one another based on their communities. I don't know how well you can see it, but there is a little cluster down here that is completely separate from the main cluster. Zoom in a little bit. That's what it looks like. And so when I first saw this, I thought, that is really strange. And what's even more strange about it is that there is actually no connection to the main group. And so what that means is that these samples are not sharing anything at all with the rest of the group, at least not in terms of the major players. And so I said, we need to figure out what this is. It turns out these are 30 samples collected from a single individual in our Undiagnosed Disease Consortium. And so that just totally blew my mind. And I was like, man, this is crazy. So I dug a little deeper, and basically what's happening is that there are two bacterial species in this cluster that are not in the larger cluster. Not much is known about them, unfortunately, so we really don't know where to go from here, but what we're going to do is we're going to resequence this individual and probably do some deeper sequencing to try to figure out if this was just a weird fluke or if there's actually something going on here that maybe is related to the disease. Again, it's an undiagnosed disease, so anything that we can learn about this individual and their system, including the 99% that's usually ignored, is going to help. So I will leave it at that. This list is certainly not all-inclusive. The Night Lab itself has about 40 people, but I've listed the people who have directly contributed to the information that you saw on these slides. And thank you again for having me here. It's been great, and I hope you enjoyed it.
You. Phenomenal. Thanks so much, Dr. Hyde. Thank you very much. That's fantastic. Unfortunately, due to prior commitments, Dr. Hyde is not going to be able to stay after to answer questions today, so hopefully we'll have her back some other time. I will turn it right over again to Mr. Paul Svensson.
Yes. And Mr. Chris Duran. See, Chris and I, speaking of food, I think it's really great that we're having a chili cook-off today. So I was just in New York this week and had a chance to go to Ellis Island and stand in the room where my grandfather came through in 1913, and it's pretty awesome. Wisdom of the ages. And this is kind of a song about that. And we'll sing it to you, and then we'll just you can help us sing it afterwards. Wisdom song. Be courteous, kind, and forgiving. Be gentle and peaceful each day. Be warm and human and grateful. Have a good thing to say. What's your grandma say, Chris?
She says, be thoughtful and trustful and childlike. Be witty and happy and wise. Be honest and love all your neighbors. Be obsequious, purple, and clairvoyant.
Oh, yeah? My grandma said, be sure to stop at all stop signs and drive 55 miles per hour. Pick up hitchhikers foaming at the mouth. When you get home, get a master's degree in geology.
That's really good advice. And here's some more. Be pompous, obese, and eat cactus. Be dull and boring and omnipresent. Criticize things you don't know about. Be oblong and have your knees removed. Be tasteless, rude, and offensive. Live in a swamp and be three-dimensional. Put a live chicken in your underwear. Get all excited and go to a yawning festival. So let's all sing a little Grandma Miswit. Be courteous, kind, and forgiving. Be courteous, kind, and forgiving. Be gentle and peaceful each day. Be gentle and peaceful. Be warm and human and grateful. Be warm and human and have a good thing to say. And have a good thing. Be thoughtful and trustful and childlike. Be thoughtful and trustful and child. Be witty and happy and wise. Witty and happy and wise. Be honest and love all your neighbors. Be honest and love all your. Be obsequious, purple, and clairvoyant. Be obsequious, purple, and clairvoyant. Be pompous, obese, and eat cactus. Be pompous, obese, and be dull and boring and omnipresent. Be dull and boring and omnipresent. Criticize things you don't know about. Criticize things you don't. Be oblong and have your knees removed. Be oblong and have your knees removed. Be sure to stop at all stop signs. Be sure to stop at all stop signs. Drive 55 miles an hour and drive 55 miles. And pick up hitchhikers foaming at the mouth. Pick up hitchhikers foaming at the mouth. And when you get home, go and get a master's degree in geology. And when you get home, go get a master's degree in geology. And last but not least, be tasteless, rude, and offensive. Be tasteless, rude, and offensive. Live in a swamp and be three-dimensional. Live in a swamp and be three-dimensional. Put a live chicken in your underwear. Put a live chicken in your underwear. Go in a closet and suck eggs. Go in a closet and suck eggs.
Yes, good advice. And the yes, Martin, of course, is Steve Martin, in case you hadn't figured that out. Oh, well, now we're going to have the your embarrassing personal moments we're going to share. We've done this anonymously because these are embarrassing personal moments that are told by people who are not you. So if you're reading one of those, come on up. People have shared some of their personal moments with us, embarrassing personal moments, and these are the people who will be reading them.
All right. 2 years ago for Halloween, I went to a corn maze with some friends. I ran ahead and hid in the corn, then jumped out screaming to scare my friends. But it wasn't them. It was a family with small kids, and one started crying. I felt terrible.
Shortly after the original Star Wars came out, the local library used it as their theme for the town's Memorial Day parade float. My mom, a children's librarian elsewhere, scored me the slot as Princess Leia on the float and made me a great dress. However, she had not seen the movie, and she would not let us see it either. But of course, we knew all about it, and the action figures were everywhere. Nevertheless, my mom insisted that Princess Leia had pigtails and not side buns. Hello. Almost 3 decades have passed, and I still remember how mortified I was in pigtails. Darth Vader, R2-D2, and C-3PO laughed out loud and asked who I was supposed to be.
I was very naive as a child and even as an adolescent, but I remember 2 separate events from about 5th grade that were embarrassing, even though I was not entirely sure why. On one occasion, I commented that I thought I might become pregnant. My best friend exclaimed, "Would Andy do that?" And I replied, "If he loved me enough," because I thought a female became pregnant when she and a male loved one another. But her reaction to my comments left me with the distinct feeling there was something I did not know. Another time, probably talking with the same friend, but maybe not, I was asked where my younger sister was. If I was 11, she was only 9 then. I responded, Making love with Bobby Fuller. My friend was aghast, and I once again wondered what I had said that was obviously wrong. It would be many years before I really knew why my comments had been so shocking.
Many years ago, while getting ready for work, I snagged several pairs of nylons in rapid succession and had to run out to my car to retrieve my emergency nylons from the glove box. I noticed that they didn't seem very stretchy, but was in such a hurry that I didn't worry about it. That day, I had to go to the courthouse with my boss to help carry all of the files that we would need in the courtroom. When we arrived at the courthouse and I got out of the car, I had to give my nylons a discreet tug because they had slid down a bit during the drive to court. I had a sense of impending doom when I had both arms full of files and was trotting between cars through the parking lot after my boss and realized that my nylons had completely lost their elasticity and were slowly slithering down my legs. In a desperate attempt to keep them from sliding further, I tried to clamp them in place with my elbows, but all my efforts were in vain, and the wretched things slid further down and were gaining speed. Despite my walking like Popeye in a last attempt to keep them from falling off completely. Too embarrassed to say anything, I let my boss get a little ahead of me and then stepped out of my shoes and let the wretched things pool around my ankles. Figuring that desperate times called for desperate measures, I kicked them off under a parked car, stepped back into my shoes, and hurried to catch up with my boss and pretended like the whole thing never happened.
When we were in middle school, my friend Billy R. and I went adventure hiking down the hills behind his house in our small Northern California town. This was back when parents used to let kids run wild as long as they were back home before the street lights came on. Well, Billy found an honest-to-goodness Indiana Jones whip. It was one of those massive vines with leaves we had found on our adventures. The next day or so, I asked if Billy could play, and his mom gives me a funny look. He wasn't feeling up to it. She said he wasn't sick, though. Turns out, those vines he was whipping around had poison ivy on them. I then asked if I could still hang out and distract him from his itching. I could even help him scratch. His mom and sister burst out laughing. Apparently, he had only gotten poison ivy on his hands, but the first thing he did when he got home was to pee. That's right, that's where his troubles were, on Billy's willy. I was so embarrassed.
I was in high school and a friend's parents invited me to go water skiing with them. It was a fantastic weekend filled with laughter and playing cards and goofing off and learning how to water ski. One of the first rules of water skiing is that if you start to feel you are losing control of the skis beneath you, you need to let go of the handle that is attached to the boat. Otherwise, the boat drags you along. One ski run, I felt my skis starting to slide out ahead of me, and I forgot to release the handle, making me sort of scoot on the top of the water before letting go. The boat swung around and got me, and we headed back to shore. Once on shore, my swimsuit felt weird, so I adjusted it, and then took a look and found small, round pebbles of poop. Note to self, let go of the handles.
About 20 years ago, based on concept and story text I was given, I designed and illustrated one of my all-time favorite projects. There were brochures, maps, to-do reminders, and all kinds of things for a national branding for corporate relocation wing of apartments.com. Besides the component pieces themselves, I actually did the presentation with enlargements of the cartoon figures and storyline to the company's owner. The outside of the folder that held everything that would be distributed to a person's friends or family that would be relocated looked like a welcome mat that would sit outside your front door. But instead of just saying welcome on the front, it said welcome kit. The only problem during my presentation opening line after hi, nice to see everyone here, was I'd like to show you how you can make your clients' most valuable employees feel safe and well cared for during the relocation with Apartment.com's step-by-step package, Welcome Tits.
As a teen growing up in an evangelical purity culture, with tech-savvy father, my internet was filtered, placing a barrier between me and bodacious people engaged in voluptuous entanglement. Thanks to my dad, I had some degree of technical know-how and probed the network, driven by the need to satiate my, probe. Hidden on our home network, I discovered an entire server of porn, neatly organized into folders based on fetish by my dad. At the time, my PC was in our library, right outside my parents' bedroom. This tempting treasure trove demanded immediate exploration. So, at 3 a.m., I plugged in some headphones and went spelunking, not knowing I sat in a squeaky chair. My mother emerged from the bedroom, catching me red-handed, absolutely taken aback. But before she could demand an explanation, I blurted out, "It's Dad's!" throwing him under the wheels of the porn brush and securing my spot of lesser wrath.
Those were so well read. That was fantastic. And thanks to all of you for sharing those moments. My name is Steven. I'm an organizer for, board chair of, and regular MC for Sunday Assembly San Diego. I also am the chief coordinator for a conference called Wonder 2017, which is the 4th annual international conference of Sunday Assembly in the world, which will be right here in this beautiful facility, May 18th to May 21st. And I hope many of you will be in attendance, and I hope many of you will help me to host this event and volunteer your time. Additionally, I work at a large wholesale club in town. I'm responsible for and work with about 400 employees, and I ride a bike. And it's the bike riding that, forgive the 1970s colloquialism, but it's the thing that helps me get out of my head. So I'm thinking all the time, and I won't say it's the joy in my life, because I take joy out of a lot of things that I do. The chief joy that I have is coming home to my wife every night. That's really the joy that I have in my life, the principal one. But the bike's a close second, I have to say. I ride about 120 to 150 miles a week. And I live in Chula Vista, so I go out L Street through Otay Mesa, and right now the hills are verdant and green and beautiful, and it's rural out there, and I get all the way out to Hamul and back, or sometimes I ride down to the border, and there's family farms there, and community gardens and horses. I've seen roadrunners and snakes and coyotes out there, and I can see the hillside of Mexico and the bull ring and the ocean. Or I ride around the bay, the south end of the bay. There's a bike path that goes that's just closed bike path. It's smooth and it's nice, and you can ride all the way up to Glorieta Bay without any cars and pedal all the time. And I'm thinking all the time, like trying to decide all the things that I need to do in my life. And then, like after 6 or 8 miles, suddenly the fog lifts, and I could see the horizon and the sky and the ocean and Point Loma in the distance, and the blue herons and the egrets and the osprey, and I just feel the sense of joy, just like having that time to just get out of my own head. And it's my self-care. It's the thing that I do to keep myself have that perspective on the other things that I have to do. And I think right now, maybe more than ever, I don't know about you, but these last few months, it seems like I'm thinking all the time and kind of measuring how things are going to go, or where do I fit into the scope of the things that are happening around me, and having that self-care moment, that time to, I'm sorry, oh yeah, I'll take that, sure. Okay, this is, Neil just passed this off to me. This is a late entry to the embarrassing stories. When I was about 11 years old, I was discovering, that's in quotes, my body and experimenting, and I found that my parents had a hand massager. It was a metal massage machine with a cord and coiled springs. There's actually a diagram here, so it looks like your hand goes like this, that you slid your hand through, resting with the massager on the back of your hand, and when you turned it on, it vibrated anything you touched. So one day I was alone in my parents' room, because that's where the vibrator was, and I was vibrating something that I was touching, when my aunt walked into the room. And she looked at me, she opened her mouth to speak, and instead just simply closed the door and went away. And we never spoke about this again. Never spoke about this. And that is blank. Because it's from memory. It was an embarrassing moment for me. So I was practicing self-care. And it's the same kind of self-care that possibly some of the other people in this room may have practiced at time, but it's one of those things that's a private thing. It's like something you're absolutely happy to participate in alone, but when somebody else gets introduced to the situation, it changes the equation on that. It's like pooping, I mean, it's something you're happy to do it, but you kind of prefer to do that all by yourself. And it's you don't know how the people around you are going to react to something. Anything could be embarrassing somebody if you're unsure about how other people are going to think about it. And I mean, if you're in a group of friends, you might do something boneheaded or silly, and it's funny. You're like, these are my friends, I'm in a safe place. Like when I'm up here, I decided a long time ago that if I mess up, and I have over and over again, this is my friends, this is my group of my friends. What's the worst that can happen? It's going to be fine, and it always has been. And we'll just go have some chili after, and everything will be great. And embarrassment has this assumption about it, and it's not what people think about you, it's what you think they think about you, because you don't know what people think. So you're left being kind of unsure about what people think about you. What must they think about me? And I know some of the people that I know that are in the atheist community struggle with this every day. They've lost friends and families for simply telling people who they are and for being who they are. And one thing that age has brought me is that I'm not impervious to embarrassment, but I'm more likely to have perspective on it. And I know who I am. I know that I'm a good person, and I know that there are just so many good people in this room because I've had the opportunity to meet so many of you. And this is a really good community, and I'm not speaking for everybody, saying that everybody's in the atheist community here. Because this is an absolutely radically welcoming group, and I wouldn't be a part of a group that I had to do something special or be something specific to be part of the group. But sometimes, when you're ready, it's important to let people know who you are, the person that you are, if you're going to have deep relationships. And that doesn't mean that you have to do that, but sometimes there's a point in your life when you're ready to let people know. And that's, for instance, if I wasn't honest with my wife, whom I love so much, I wouldn't have the relationship that I do, the one that I'm so appreciative of every day for having been honest. One of the assemblers here gave me the permission to share some of the things about them. I mean, looking at this person, you wouldn't know that they were an ex-drug addict, that they were a drinker, that they're an atheist, and also that they are a male-bodied and a male socialized person that identifies as female. They're transgender. I mean, that's a lot for a person to be an ex-drug user, an alcoholic, a transgendered, and be an atheist, and you wouldn't know. And that person allowed me to share that with you. I think now more than ever, it's important for us to be visible, because where would the gay community be these days if people weren't visible? If they didn't stand up and just be the people that they are, and let people know them for who they are, and let people see them. This is an absolutely welcoming community. This is a community of good people, which I feel is at the cutting edge of representing a specific group of people to the world. And it's important, and when you're ready, to proudly let people know who you are. Maybe you'll find a welcoming community, and maybe you can find acceptance and peace, and maybe you can find a home. And maybe you can find the love of your life and true joy. And maybe you can change people's minds. My name is Stephen. I ride a bike. Thank you. We will now take 60 seconds for a moment of silence. Thank you. We've got some announcements today, as we always do. If you're making an announcement, if you'll please come up to the front of the room. And I'm sorry, this one time we didn't do our walkthrough, so I'm not exactly sure who this is. And here they come, or what the announcements are. Looks like, Dan, you're first up.
I'm hosting a walk this upcoming Saturday in Balboa Park. It's called the 7 Bridge Walk. We'll be going in and around Balboa Park, traveling over 7 historic bridges in San Diego. The following Saturday, I will be doing a hike in Mission Trails on Park. It's the first of 5 hikes I'm hosting. It's called the 5 Hike Challenge, and you hike all 5 peaks in Mission Trails Park, and you qualify to get a certificate and a pin, assuming you take a selfie at the top of each peak. Thank you.
Howdy, y'all. We're having a crawfish boil. Yeah, it's going to be a hoot. You should come on out.
A conference called Wonder, as I mentioned, that's going to be right here. I've been to each one of the international conferences. They're amazing, just an amazing 3 days, and you meet people like-minded people from all over the world, and it's just a fantastic event. I will be asking for help from some of you. I have specific jobs that need to get done, and would appreciate your participation. Tickets are available at a conference called wonder.com. Am I wrong on that? Okay, perfect. Next one. Okay. Okay, thanks. Yeah, sure. Sunday Assembly is entirely run by volunteers, and it takes a little bit of money to do what we do here, to be able to have a chili cook-off that's free, and this beautiful facility. We do appreciate your recurring donations in any amount, and we make that as easy as possible to do. So if you have any questions or you want to do that, we'd appreciate it. And you can see Laura in the back of the room at the end of the assembly. And that is it. I will, one last thing I will mention, we've been talking about the gut biome, is Tommy has very kindly brought some kefir grains, and he turned me on to kefir grains, and I've been doing this for months now, my wife and I. So we make kefir at home, and he's got your starter kit for you. That's free for a $2 donation to Sunday Assembly, and he'll be back in the corner right there. So Tommy, thank you for doing that. We really appreciate it.
What's a kefir brain?
A kefir grain?
Brain.
And we have somebody who is going to teach people about how to do fermented vegetables. She's in the back, so she'll be in the back while y'all are eating chili and screwing your gut up. She'll help you fix your gut.
Okay. Stand up if you want to. Sit down if you want to be defiant, or if you're tired, or if you don't care. But I do need some percussion from the crowd here. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, but won't you come back no more? What you say? Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, don't you come back no more. Here we go. Oh woman, don't you treat me so mean. The meanest old woman that I ever seen. I guess if you say so, I have to pack my things and go. That's right, hit the road, Jack.
And don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more. Oh, sing it again. Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more. Oh, baby, listen, baby, don't you treat me this way, 'cause I'll be back on my feet someday. Don't care if you do, 'cause it's understood. You ain't got no money, you're no good. Well, I guess if you say so, I got to pack my things and go. That's right, hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more. Oh, sing it again, hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more. Don't you come back no more. Bring it down now. Don't you come back no more. Don't you come back no more. Don't you come back no more.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Chris. Well, that is it for this Sunday Assembly. Thank you so much for being here. We have chili in the back. Normally we meet at Pizzicato, which is right down the corner and around the corner, but I think we're probably going to have chili today. So thank you so much for being here today. Have a great day.
Don't you treat me this way, I'll be back on my feet someday. You ain't got no money, you ain't no good. I guess if you say so, have to pack